Happy Ganesha Day, everybody! I'm going to tell you about what happened at Hobbytown this month. So yes, unfortunately I didn't get to race my Ganesha car because this car didn't fare so well in the practice runs, so I didn't use it in my tune class category. So what I did was, I came late to box stock, so I missed the first round, unfortunately. But I got to race second to fifth rounds, and unfortunately I couldn't get to the finals with this car. I got to the semifinals in one round, I believe, and that was as far as I got. So yeah, that was a shame. But yeah, this was a pretty cool car. It wasn't so bad. It's just that particular track. You can see it right here. Very, very challenging. It has this weird 5-lane thing that turns around in a circle and then it drops abruptly, and that caused a lot of cars to course out right there. And then it splits off into 2 3-lane sections, and yeah, anything goes on this particular track. It was just very, very challenging. So yeah, FMA cars, at least my FMA cars, didn't fare as well as my non-FMA cars on this particular track. So I tried doing things such as reversing the wheels, right? So I had the back wheels in the front. I also tried playing with the weight distribution of the box stock parts. I would remove this front part here because this front part is actually removable. I also tried taking out screws. There's a screw that's right on the motor gear cover, and there's also an extra screw that comes in a box stock kit for this. So I tried adjusting it with 2 screws right here. That didn't work, so the added tiny bit of weight didn't help in this case. So yeah, nothing was working in this, so unfortunately I didn't fare so well in box stock. Now for tune class, I had 2 cars that I tried, and they were both animal racer cars. So because I couldn't race Ganesha, I thought, well, let's race these animal racers. And you know what? These actually fared a lot better than my FMA cars. My FMA cars, for whatever reason, they weren't staying on the track, but these stayed on the track and they were pretty fast. They just weren't that fast, but they stayed on the track when it counted. And so these cars got into the semifinal rounds 2 times, maybe 3 times. And then they just ended up not being as fast as other cars, or they would course out inexplicably because maybe I shouldn't have gotten greedy and put too much battery power in each of them. Yeah, so when you're racing in your normal races, like the, what is it, quarterfinals, I guess it's called, or 8th finals, whatever the thing is called. When you're racing the normal races, you don't always show your car with the fastest battery power. You try to beat all of the racers in the quarterfinals, and then when it comes down to the semifinals, that's when you can juice your battery up a little bit. Now, depending on how much you want to win, do you want to win by nose or do you want to win? So I ended up getting greedy and I wanted to win, right? I wanted to show that this was like really fast. So in the initial races, this and this car, they were kind of like slowish looking, and probably everybody was wondering about these because like these ended up winning because in the first semifinals, these cars ended up winning because they were the last car standing, basically. All the other cars would course out and these would still putt around the field. So everybody thought probably, hey, these are just slow cars that'll stay on the track, and that's her goal in this case. Well, yeah, it was. And you know what? Once you get to the finals, no matter how you do it in that first lane, it's like you're kind of coasting from there. You just have to figure out ways of staying on the track. So getting onto that first or second lane, that takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, doesn't it? It's like, it feels so good to be able to just win that first lane or that second lane and just kind of like ease back and relax a little bit. But you still have to try to figure out the track, and that's what test runs are for. So you want to try to practice against other racers in the test runs and see where your car is at. So what I did from the third lane races onward, I juiced up the batteries by a lot. And I think a lot of people saw how fast these cars could be. It's just that they just didn't stay on the track as well. And here's the big reason why. Stupid brakes would keep flying off my car. So previously I would cover up the brakes, but that wasn't working for me. So when I removed the tape and exposed the brake, it was staying on the track. And I tried to keep it like that. But then I kept losing the brake, and it was a 2mm brake, and I kept on cutting newer brakes on there, and I would apply them on there, and they keep rubbing off, and then it was like, oh gosh, I ran out of 2mm brakes, and so yeah, this ended up not faring so well. Once the brake would fly off, and this would inevitably, in the final lap, it would end up coursing out, and that was such a shame, because this was pretty solid for a while. And this too was solid, but it had like, the thickness of the brake was like a little too much. The back brake was 3mm, and then it was like, there were points in which it would really slow down to a sluggish halt along the dragon back. and then I reduced it to 2mm, and it was faring better, especially with enough juice, enough battery power. So that was faring pretty well with this flippy top here. So yeah, I wanted a flippy top car to win also. I wanted an animal racer to win. This is a car that never won anything, and it was actually staying on the track, and I was happy about that. So it was cool that I got to race this car finally. Yeah, because it was basically in my like other box. Like there's the primary box, and there's the other box, and you all know about this. The other box is where you put the cars that don't seem to work for whatever reason. You kind of put them in the other box, and you kind of let them sit and kind of stew there for a while until you have occasion to bring it out. And the reason why I brought it out for this month's races is because I wanted to race an animal racer. I wanted all of my cars to be animal racers for the tune class category. And yeah, I got to race all animal cars. So pretty cool. So both these cars had a shot. The small wheels allow these cars to stay on the track, and they were pretty much stable. It's just that my greediness in wanting to win just caused me to flip out, and also the brakes rubbing off would cause me to flip out, and not having enough 2mm brake material. Unfortunately, that was my demise, because this thing over here in the front, on here, this was also a 2mm brake, it would keep rubbing and coming off on the top edge. And yeah, I was trying to use a technique that I know where I can breathe on the brake and just cause it to be a little more sticky. I also tried using Latif's little heat filament, and you can kind of burn marks into the brake. So what I was just trying to do is burn the edges so that it would stay on. And yeah, pretty cool, but it didn't work because it still flipped out, because there are some devious dips in that track. I mean, take a look at it again. If you study what's going on in the track, you'll see lots of devious dips. So a lot of people were having issues with those devious dips. And yeah, I was having issues with the devious dips. And this car was having issues with the devious dips. And yeah, unfortunately, it just would course out with too much battery power. That's just the way life goes. So yeah, these cars got into the semifinals 3 times. And then in the semifinals, they would either course out or they would get beaten by a faster car. And yeah, it's cool when I see cars that are faster. These cars are capable of outrunning a lot of cars, just not in these particular semifinal races. So yeah, just to give you a perspective of what I was going up against, there were 36 tune class cars in the field. So that was very, very challenging enough. I heard that there were more in box stock, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And so we were there until about 8 o'clock before we finally left. It was almost 8 o'clock. So yeah, having the 3 sets of races, box stock, tune class, and open class, and there until 8 o'clock, crazy. But you know what? We had some dedicated racers there. Most of them were from Deep Pit Stop. They had some formidable cars there. Yeah, so I had to just amp up the batteries, and that was my downfall. I just amped them up a little too much because I got a little too greedy at times, and also poor choice of lane. The initial lane would also cause my demise. So yeah, I was going against some really formidable cars this month. So yeah, kudos to the Deep Pit Stop team for that. Pretty cool. Now, for open class, I had Venom. Now, you guys know that when I was racing Venom against the McBite folks, of which I'm part of, yeah, this plate kind of broke off and I had to glue it back on. This is super glued back on. So this is not 100%, but I felt that it was good enough because this was my choice of car. This was actually faring better than all of my other open class cars. And I feel that it's because it had some wonderfully nice weight distribution to it. And even though it looks kind of weird and funny, it was still pretty cool and it worked. And yeah, you can't fault it for that. It's got the DXN style AT front bumper. Yeah, it kind of twists and turns and pivots, and it's pretty cool. And it's got my wonderful chandelier pivot in the back, which is like very unorthodox, but it works, you know, like, yeah, and there's no negative camber, like pretty cool. And when you drop this, lands flat, pretty cool. And I had an atomic tune engine in there because with an atomic tune engine, this was already pretty darn fast. Originally, I had a Hyperdash motor in here, and I think I just burnt out another Hyperdash motor. It was just like, so many things go wrong with Hyperdash in this particular car. But with atomic tuned, this was pretty speedy. It was not the fastest car, but it was fast where it counted. And unfortunately, because I was running out of 2mm brake pads, yeah, right here, I had to use a doubled up 1mm brake pad, and the top layer of the 1mm kept on rubbing off. And so, yeah, I was like holding on by a thread, so to speak. And yeah, I think for what I did in this particular open class category, it was pretty good. It could have been better if I had a continuous supply of 2mm brakes. So yeah, that's unfortunately the way the ball bounces this month for me. Ran out of brake, so I have to open up a new package of 2mm brakes and just outfit this car with it. And probably, most likely, I should replace this entire chassis because I think it's due for replacement. I think that this chassis is kind of long in the tooth and I just need to get it replaced. So yeah, this car was super fast when it was at 100%. I'm happy with the style of this car. I'm happy with the performance of this car. Could be a little better, but you know what? On any other day, this would probably get into one of the final spots. And unfortunately, this wasn't that day. So yeah, kudos to the Deep Pit Stop team for that. This is like, it's good to be challenged by really good racers, I would say. There's a lot of challenging tracks at Hobbytown. Eric, the race master, he designs all of these tracks and he puts all of these wonderfully weird puzzles in them. So that's how you have to look at a track. Again, take a look at this track. There's puzzles galore in the track. There's like dips and dives and turns and bends and things that kind of like make you go, huh, crazy. And there's digicurves. And so like a lot of my cars could handle digicurves even though they're not like sliding dampers or things. Like this was actually faring pretty well for a while until I ran out of 2mm brake material, and then I had to like tape up what I had here, and this was then coursing out like crazy. So unfortunately, yeah, this was not my month, but that's okay. Better luck next month. So yeah, everybody, if you like this video, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel. You'll see more videos just like this one. Until next time, everybody, see you, bye.